And welcome to this week's episode podcast. Just information, and I cannot say overload. The Hump Day Holla. So much is going on. That's why we've had to create, on top of the daily and the morning quickies, we've had to create just something to where we can get information out to you every single week. And especially today, listen, big numbers came out yesterday. So we're going to break down inflation because I think it's important. We hear the word, but do we really know what it means? And I do. Probably, I wouldn't say I'm the grand poobah. I don't know if they're going to call me in a court of law as an expert witness on inflation, but I know enough to be dangerous. So, James, I appreciate you being with us. And I know you've got a bunch of stuff lined up. We've been talking about this, just all the impact. So let's just kind of jump in and kind of let's help our listeners out, man. This is what this is all about, right? That's what this Hump Day Holler and the feedback we're getting from this as a weekly podcast has really just been fantastic. And I want to make sure that we keep getting all that information out to folks. That's for sure.
Yeah, so the big headline is the new inflation numbers came out, and there's sort of a quibbling over the definition here. Some people use inflation to talk about there's more money being printed, like an expansion of the money supply. But usually when you hear inflation on the news or in everyday conversation, they're talking about the rate of increases in prices, the grocery store and gas station over that. So it's a pretty broad measure, the overall increase in prices or cost of living in a country. Is that a pretty fair definition on what we're using inflation for today?
Yeah, I mean it is, but let's just look at it this way: what causes inflation? Demand is greater than supply. So why do we have so much demand right now? Money's been cheap for a long, long time, and we've got to figure that out. So you compile that, right, along with everything that's going on with gas prices and all that, and here we are. And the number there, I mean, when you look at the 8.3%, that is a number that absolutely stings. And think about this. I mean, you're paying 8% more across the board, right? When you start looking at things, that's sort of what that means, that everything is costing you that much more. So when it comes to, and I want to get into this inflation, but let's kind of grab people's attention right off the bat, right? So wages, everybody's making more money right now. Everybody's making more money. And wages are up. But when you add inflation back in, James, you can't go to your boss and go, hey, I need more money. They did their part. The problem here is this: when you add back into inflation, it's like your wages have decreased by 3%.
Like
That's the
we had
pain.
6% increase in wages, but a 9% increase in inflation. So really, we lost money.
You lost money. It's costing you more to live today. So it's not the boss's issue. And that's where, listen, that's where a lot of this problem's coming into, right? The great resignation, they're calling it. And people are jumping ship. They're going, 10 years of loyalty, I'm out because somebody else is giving me a few more bucks over here. What they've got to worry about for those folks is the old last in, first out scenario. Because Powell said it last month. We've been talking about it, and you're going to see it. Pain is here. It's coming. And that's why it's important that we break these numbers down. This is not to scare. This is for information purposes only, right? We want folks to know, where can you get this information? Everybody's going on with their daily lives. So you need somebody that you can trust, especially now, to get your resource, right?
Yeah, so Dwayne, I see some arguments that 8.3% is not the real inflation number. When you go look at individual segments that break down the CPI, food is up 11.4% over the past year. That's the largest 12-month increase since 1979.
So got to have food. And they don't want to use, right? They want to use, there's two types of, let's talk about this. Let's show off, James, our smarts a little bit real quick here. Okay.
Okay.
CPI is the Consumer Price Index, right?
Agreed.
And that is an acronym for inflation. There's two types of inflation that you'll hear about. And I'm going to get rid of the acronyms and just call them what they are, okay? And that is core and headline. So core is what you're going to hear the media touting, because core inflation removes gas, energy, food. I don't know about you, but got to get in my car, got to get some petrol, and I got to eat to survive. So to me, those things are important. So why we would even try to talk about core inflation, I get it. The Fed is their salespeople. But the true measure is the headline or the CPI. And that's what's at the 8.3%. Because you can't take those things out. So, if you were to look at a pie chart on inflation, and you would look at what are the biggest components of inflation, right? So there you go. So, and if you look at these two, it breaks it down for you, which is sort of crazy, right? So the headline, which is on the left here of your screen, a CPI versus the PCE, which is your personal consumption expenditures. Well, look how they take down the value of housing. Look how what they do when it comes to transportation, how much they minimize these things, right? So these are all things that, and then they give big old weights to medical care and recreation. So these are the things here that it's fool's gold. It's the funny numbers. But what I want you to focus on right now is let's look at the CPI by itself right here. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, James. So 42% of inflation, and people want to know, why are my mortgage rates going up? Inflation is causing your mortgage rates to go up. It's 42% of this piece of pie. So you eat that piece of pie every day, that has a huge, huge impact. Well, then look at what's number two. Transportation. Transportation. That is gas. Okay? Energy. Then you look at your third biggest piece of pie. Food and beverages. So you can't take out the two biggest factors and say, hey, here's where we're really at. So what is the Fed trying to get under control? Number one is the housing market. It's 42%. So that's why you're seeing them have to gain control of this. Your food and beverages. Listen, there's a strike that's about to go down. You think food's expensive now? Wait till the railroad strike. It's over 100,000 people are going to strike. That's going to leave us short 472,000 trucks that railways make up for. So what's going to happen to your supply there? They've already stopped taking important goods, right? Or, stuff for, hazardous goods, things you need to live off of, but they don't want it sitting out somewhere when these folks strike by the end of the week.
All right, let's talk about what's going on in the mortgage world. We see the rates going up, and we have the question that keeps getting asked, is this a buyer or seller's market? It was a seller's market. Then it's been kind of neutral. Has it shifted into being a buyer's market?
No, I think there's more opportunity now for buyers than for sellers. Because has inventory gone up? Sure. Will inventory continue to go up? Probably so. But how? How will it go up? 83%, listeners, 83% of mortgage holders have a rate below 4.5%. So you're not refinancing. And people always ask me, well, what do you mean that sellers or buyers? You got to sell. So yeah, 80. Look, mortgage refinance and retreat. That's just from July. It's down. That is another number, ironically, that's down over 80% as well, year over year. Refinancing is down. So I would say there's more buyer opportunities right now than seller opportunities. Because look, prices are being reduced, but people aren't buying, people aren't negotiating to get a cheaper home. What they're doing is they're just going buy the cheaper home. They're not going, you know what? I'm going to try to get this $1.2 million home for $800,000. I'll just go buy the $800,000 house. Or the $300,000 house, I'll just go get the $225,000 right now.
All right, let's do some of that math that we were talking about before the show, because you had pointed out in previous shows how the average home price or the purchase price of a home is going down, but that doesn't mean like the house you're sitting in is losing value. That doesn't mean my house is depreciating. That mean your house is depreciating. That just means when people go out and they're buying, they're hitting a lower price point because the interest rate is eating up some of that monthly budget that they have for whatever the housing that they're going to get.
That's correct. And and it's not about, when it comes to affordability, you hear affordability and how affordability is having an impact. Absolutely it is. We just told you, because of inflation, you're actually, even though you got that 6% increase in pay, it feels like you're making 3% less. So when you see home purchase price plummets, what you've got to understand here is people are buying less, right? So they're not having to come way off on their prices. That's why it's so important to work with a realtor in your market that knows how to get you value. And what we have right now is we do have some sellers who are going, I want this, and maybe they think I can get more than what was asking. This is where you've got to trust your realtors, okay? Because home purchase price is down 12,000, right? So that means people are buying smaller houses. So think of it this way. You're no longer on the interstate, cruising at 85 miles an hour, rocking and rolling. Money's cheap. We're pass and go. We're not collecting out $200. You know where you're hanging out now? You got off the interstate, and now you're on the service road. So you can't go as fast, but it's still smooth sailing. You're just not, hair isn't on fire, so to speak. So that's what I want to make sure that we understand. When you look at real estate at 42% of the inflation, they've got to slow that down. They have to. And that's why inflation, you're seeing the mortgage rates going up like we're seeing. Yesterday, mortgage rates yesterday increased by 0.25% alone yesterday. They went from 5.98 to 6.25 yesterday alone. So when you're looking at that, that is huge amount.
Well, give me some math then on a monthly payment. If I'm buying a big house, an $800,000 house, my dream house. Now I'm not going for $1 million house, an $800,000 house.
Mm-hmm.
What would my monthly payment be? Would you say is 6.25% interest?
Yeah, but let's say, hey, let's be
a round number.
Positive. Let's do 5.5%.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's just do 5.5%. Yeah, you hit the lottery. You're that guy, right? So $800,000 house, James, at 5.5% on a 30-year term, because like we talked about, we're not doing 15s right now. That's $4,500, $4,542 to be exact. Last year at this time, all right, you say it sounds about right. Last year you were buying this same house for $3,500. So again, do I want the 800, or now am I going to go look and say, you know what? Let me go find 650. So those are the things that inflation is factoring in. Something else to consider, James, when it comes to inflation right now. Gas prices been going down, right, James?
Right.
Where's all that gas been coming from? Not everybody at once raise their hand and go, me. I got the answer. That's been coming from our reserves, James. Biden took that out of our reserves, which is supposed to be for war, famine, like just horrible things. So, James, to replace that, you think somebody's just going to go, here you go. Here's some stuff back for you. I know y'all were trying to get back on your feet out there.
We're going to buy it back at $100 a barrel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So gas prices are probably set. And guess what? They stop doing that next month. The reserves will be empty.
All right. So what does this mean for interest rates? We have another Federal Reserve meeting right around the corner, and they have a chance to pop it up.
Everyone bet your house. You want my lock guarantee of the week, of the month? Bet your house on 75 bips. I'm even hedging 100 bips. I'm gonna throw a little bit of money on the side on 100 basis points, 1 full percent. So that means we will have gone from 0 to 3 1/4 in a 9-month span.
All right, let me run another statistic by you before we do rate watch. I got one more.
Yep.
Stick with me here. All right, tell me why this graphic is important. What do we learn here?
Well, basically what we're learning is that buyers are sitting still. Buyers are waiting. And whether it's as much as we sit here and say, marry the house, date the rate, buyers are going, you know what? I can afford an $800,000 house, but I'm not going to pay $4,500 for it when I know I could have paid $3,500. So they're trying not to have that same regret, James, as the 72% of home buyers that were surveyed. We talked about this past Saturday on Mortgage Gumbo. So that's what that means. People are standing pat. They're sticking to their guns. They know they've got a good credit score. And the fact is, too, James, they're going, you know what? The smell test isn't right. Something's lurking, right? You ever feel like somebody's staring at you?
Well, like if
you know right
now, if you missed the good boat that you wanted, the dream boat, it's really hard to get on the next boat that's not as glamorous.
Well, I mean, when you miss out, all that regret we talked about, when somebody missed out on their dream home, it's hard when you were supposed to buy this one home and you missed out on it. You compare everything to that. So naturally, it's tough there. And that's why you're seeing these locks plummet right now, because people are just like, you know what? I'm out. This week had somebody back out of the contract because seller wasn't willing to fix a couple things. So they said, you know what? I'm out. I'm out. Before I go sign something for 5.875, and I trust Dwayne, I have no doubt that the interest rates are going to recede. They just don't want to deal with it. And the seller said, you know what? I'm not doing it. Well, okay. Okay. Who's wrong there? The seller's not wrong and the buyer's not wrong. That's why it's crazy right now, James. You can't point a finger and go, what are you doing? Right? You just can't do it. So that's what's unique about this. And we've never seen it before. I've been doing this for 30 years. It's never been like, oh, we're in a recession. Yeah, we're getting unemployment reports at all-time lows. Right? So think about that. We still have that to happen. And listeners, that's what I want you to understand. That's why we're talking about this, trying to make you aware of what's coming. So when the Fed says they're raising rates, and I tell you it's going to be by 75 basis points minimum, that's your credit cards. Those are your short-term loans. And that's a whole nother world, is the credit cards and those things, because people are still just throwing them out there. We haven't even gotten to that. Well, we will this Saturday on Mortgage Gumbo.
All right, last thing we need to do here is rate watch. We always got to let you know where the rates are.
Yeah, look at that, Parker. 30-year conventional, 6.28. 15, 5.44. Jumbo, 5.5. That's why we used 5.5 there, Parker, for jumbo. 5-1 arm, 5.92%. FHA, 5.55, and a VA, 5.60. Listeners, here's what I want to make sure, because this has happened this week, and we've been seeing it a lot more often. Just make sure, whatever lender you're going through, that's fine. Do I think I have the cheapest and the best? Of course I do. but so does Joe Blow down the street. Make sure, and this is for you realtors as well, because this is your reputation on the line. Because when we come through this, the strong are going to survive. But make sure, a lot of people are hiding behind these adjustable rate mortgages, or even worse, variable rates I'm starting to see. And that's just ugly. I had somebody yesterday tell me, hey, they're beating your rate by 75 basis points. So I want to know, how in the heck is that happening? How am I offering 5.75 and they're getting 4.99? Guess what? It was a variable rate. That was a 6-month teaser. And after the 6 months is up, it goes up to 6%. So just be careful, folks. If you're not sure, call me. Go to mortgagegumbo.com. Go to snapsendandsave.com. Go subscribe to Mortgage Gumbo. No matter who you are, competitor, partner, listen, we're all in this together. Go subscribe to Mortgage Gumbo on YouTube. There's hundreds upon hundreds of videos. We're trying to keep you in the know, because this inflation is real, folks. So if you need anything, just let us know. And hey, on Saturday's show, we've been talking about the 3Ds. This week, we talk about debt. You're going to use those credit cards. We're going to teach you how to use them. But where are we at with that stuff? It's getting ugly with credit card debt. That's why I've been warning you against it. So till Saturday, appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow morning for our Thursday morning quickie. Mortgage Gumbo. .com.